Hello, Hacksters! Happy Friday night. We're going into the weekend. I'm excited to get outside before the sun sets. But before that happens, I have a very exciting package that I've been waiting for today from SparkFun. I've been working on a number of new PCBs, and we'll look at those in a second. But first, let's have a look at what's here. And you can find the links to all these things in the description below, no matter what platform you're on. So check it out. All right, so... Oh, my camera has gone out. No! One moment, please. Ugh. No good. All right. At least my audio is back. Sorry for the trouble. We'll try and get this up and running for you. But in the meantime, maybe I can just manually switch cameras, because... All right. At least you should be able to hear me. Now a little bit better. And I'm just gonna show you the things on this camera, which is fun because none of them are too small or delicate. It's cool. We are just not gonna worry about that whole thing with the other camera. All right, so let's get going. I have this beautiful red box from SparkFun, and it contains this lovely green wrapping paper to keep everything nice and secure. We've got a bunch of things. All right, so first off is this, actually it's at the bottom of the box, is this smart SMD tester. And I'm excited about this because it is basically a pair of tweezers that's the same as a multimeter, which will help me. For example, sometimes LEDs will be marked with a little green dot or stripe or a little arrow on the ground side, but sometimes that's on some components, the positive end is marked, and sometimes it's the negative end. It's usually the negative end, but you can't always count on that. And also, sometimes you want to make sure that, for example, a resistor is the right value, or that an LED is not broken and burnt out. So for that, I've gotten this smart SMD tester, especially because when handling really teeny tiny surface mount parts, it can be really hard to special day. Really hard to grab onto them and stuff with a regular multimeter. So it comes with a little CR2032, and I'm assuming this just pulls off. Haha! Look at that! Okay, so we have this tweezer here. I need a little screwdriver to open this up. Actually, does it already have power? No. I'm gonna guess, since there's no visible power button on here, that it kind of has a timeout, and that it will just do its thing until you stop using it for a while. So I'm opening this up, and I'm gonna assume that this goes in this way with the ground side down, because there's a little prong in the middle and then a little holders on the outside. The center part here is probably gonna be that. Ah, there we go. And we have some indications on the screen there. And actually, I'm not going to use this right now. What we have in this package also is some little green surface mount LEDs. So we're going to test it out on those. I actually have no idea how to use this one. I'm pretty familiar with a regular multimeter though, so we shouldn't have too much trouble. I'm just screwing the battery cover back in place. We've got a huge serial number on this, just in case something untoward happens. Oh, look, 0 resistance, presumably. Yeah, that's an ohm meter. Ha, cool. Neat. R/C/D. Is that like resistance/current/diode direction or something like that? There is no like information on here. Wait, oh, maybe there is in between it. Aha! Look! Informations! Resistor, capacitor, diode. Okay, cool. This is a deft handhold SMD instrument which can automatically identify resistor, capacitor, and diode and measure accurately. Design of the instrument is consistent with safety standards. Before use, check the shell is damaged or not. I didn't do that. Check if the testing needle is complete or not. Looks good. Okay, I don't need to redo this whole thing, but it looks like a good tool. And we're going to test it out in a second. Let's put that case back on for now. That's pretty cool. So that's for about 25 bucks from SparkFun. The next thing that I got was, so I'm building a new project for Avnet's Centennial. They're 100 years old. They started out, Charles Avnet, selling radio parts. And so in celebration of that, I wanted to make a little Morse code beeper thing that would like beep out Avnet 100 years in Morse code, because I thought it would be fun and it'd be a cool little PCB, and I'm all about PCBs these days. So I've actually linked in the description the project that I just released, which is still in progress, but you can see the PCBs haven't come in yet, but you can see the design that it's going to look like. You can see the prototypes that I've made, and you can see learn all about the circuit that I'm using with the @tiny. The thing is that this looks kind of ugly with all these little through holes on it. I had to try and make them look nice, sort of. I wanted them to blend in as much as possible with the white background rather than interrupting the logo, but there's still through hole components and it's still a little bit ugly. So I've ordered a bunch of different forms of the @tiny chip, including these gullwing versions that are surface mount for future versions of this PCB. But whereas I have a programmer that I've designed for programming the through-hole @tiny 85s, I can't use that on the little gullwing chip because it just won't go in the socket, obviously. So instead, I've found this device on SparkFun that is an IC test clip for surface mount type chips. Small outline integrated circuits, more specifically. This test clip assures a secure connection to all chip leads on an 8-pin SMD SOIC and provides hands-free testing, or in my case, programming. So what I can do with this is basically, this is very cool. I like how it comes in this package, so it's not going to get squished on the way. Oh, that's very secure. I don't have any of these chips yet, because as I mentioned, I've just ordered them. So I don't have those little gullwing SMD chips, but I hope to give you a demo soon. The idea is that I'll take one of these programmers that where did I put my programmer? With the socket. And instead of putting a chip into the socket, I'll put some female to male jumper wires, right? The female ends go on these pins. The male ends go into the socket on the programming PCB. And in that way, I'll be able to grab onto that little guy. These little, the little plastic fingers hold on to the package of the PCB, the plastic part, and then the little metal contacts obviously contact the metal contacts on the IC itself. And that way I will be able to program it. Hooray! When it comes to testing it, I guess I'll have to do the same thing as well on my little tester board, which I made a couple of little prototypes. They'll look horrible, but you can see those in the tutorials as well, which are linked in the description as always. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I do like the look of through-hole things. I think it's neat, but, you know, I'm trying to make something really, like, smooth and professional. So for that, where did my prototype picture go? Prototypes? Here we go. Here's the preview stuff from JLC PCB. Yeah, oh, not showing you. Yeah, so I do think it disrupts the design a little bit. I want to try and make something that looks really pro and really smooth and beautiful. So that said, this design does include a through-hole buzzer and a through-hole button. I found a button that is my favored 6x6mm type that is surface mount. However, I have not yet found a buzzer that is surface mount that is of the type that I want. And we're going to get to that in a second as well. Foreshadowing! Well, maybe we'll get to it right now, actually. It's not much of foreshadowing. Side note, this makes a great fidget. I've been just like squeezing on this while I talk to you. It's great. Very good office toy. I have to make sure, though, not to apply pressure on these pins, because that could be bad. All right, so speaking of buzzers, we have these little buzzers from SparkFun, and they're not piezo buzzers, even though they kind of look like them. This is what I'm hoping will be my salvation, because I have been looking for a buzzer that you can get two types of piezo buzzers, basically. There's ones that when you put voltage across these, they go in or out, depending. They have like a little magnetic membrane that move. Actually, a piezo buzzer doesn't. It has a crystal that expands and contracts. But either way, they're like moving in one direction or the other to an extreme in order to push air one way or the other. And you do that really fast and you get an audio tone. And that's your sort of what I am looking for. There is, however, another form of piezo speaker that has an internal connection which already oscillates at the resonant frequency of the piezo, so that if you connect, put power across the contacts, it will start this horrible shrill shrieking noise that is a really effective alarm. They use them in like smoke alarms and stuff, but that is not pleasant. And so while I was prototyping this, I just have sort of random at tiny chips and random buzzers from wherever, and I don't know what they are. And so this is my attempt to standardize and find a buzzer that is absolutely definitely just one of those passive ones that doesn't have its own resonant frequency default thingamajig. And let me see, I'm going to try and find if I can just put it, like connect it to like a voltage source or something. I do not have such a thing, but I will show you the one that I found on SparkFun, which I think is what I'm looking for. It is this mini speaker PC mount, and this is actually not a piezo. It says this is a small 12mm round speaker that operates around the audible 2 kilohertz range. You can use these speakers to create simple music or user interfaces. And by simple music, I believe that they mean that kind of, being able to create different tones based on PWM, basically. It says it is not a true piezoelectric speaker, but behaves similarly. Instead of a piezoelectric crystal that vibrates with an electric current, this tiny speaker uses an electromagnet to drive a thin metal sheet. So it really is a true tiny speaker, like the large speakers that you see and things in like headphones and wall speakers and stuff are typically like an electromagnet that's driven by an alternating current that vibrates a membrane made of like fabric or paper or whatever to push air back and forth, and that oscillation creates sound. And so the fact that it says you need to use some form of alternating current to get sound. Hooray! That sounds like it's what I'm looking for. And the good news is that this speaker is tuned to respond best with a square wave, e.g. from a microcontroller. So square waves are basically when you have on and off, compared to a sine wave, which is like a smooth analog gradient of power where it sort of ramps up and ramps down and go like positive and negative and stuff. Instead, you can just send this like high and low from a PWM pen on a PCB, and it'll make you a little tone. So that's very exciting. The rest of these are not as schmancy and exciting as those tools I led with, but I'll share them really quickly anyway. Surface mount right angle switch. This is my gift to you. It is one that I really love. This little right angle switch is lovely. It's pretty inexpensive. They're $1 each, depending on what you're trying to do. I used it last week in this little kite-shaped Art Deco earring PCB. It's very nice. You can mount it like near the edge of stuff and just like slide it back and forth. I love having on-off switches on wearables. This is an earring because it's really obnoxious. Sophie Wong has made this point as well. When you're wearing wearables, it's nice to be able to turn them off. In my case, because I want to save power for when it's really special. If you're going to be at a conference for hours and hours, you don't want to have to like find something to push this little battery out all the time, or else just have 8 different batteries on hand for when run through them really quickly. Instead, you can just have it go on and off. And as Sophie mentioned previously, it can be nice to just be able to turn it off if, for example, you're at a talk that someone else is giving and you don't want to be explaining your jacket constantly to the people around you, it's not polite. And so, yeah, that's a really nice little right angle surface mount switch that I love. I'm going to be using it for this same design for Avnet. So on here, you see it on the edge there. I pushed it really close to the edge along with the battery, which one of the little battery slots is blocked, going to be blocked by the speaker, but the other one will be open. So it'll look sort of like this, but one, there'll be like a speaker over here, but you'll still be able to like push something in over here to force the battery out. Is there such thing as a rechargeable LiPo button cell? I don't know about LiPo, but I believe I have seen rechargeable CR2032 format coin cells. I've seen it. Maybe in a dream. I don't know if it's LiPo or not, but I believe the thing exists. Let's take a look really quick. Rechargeable battery. Yeah. Bunch of options here. Rechargeable lithium, lithium ion, lithium. Yeah. Looks like a bunch of options. They may be kind of expensive, I'm assuming. But yeah, just look that up. Yeah. I try to be very respectful of my housemates when I am experimenting with piezo buzzers. You know, this one isn't so bad. It makes a really cute little tone, actually, when you make it go. Oh, let me see if I think this prototype has a nice tone, if it's the way I remember it being. Oh, now you're not going to go. I see how it is. Come on. Jerk. Did you run yourself out of battery somehow? Well, anyway, this circuit that I've been prototyping with the Morse code does actually have a nice tone, but it's, of course, live demo. It's being a jerk right now. So, yes, it can be cheaper and easier to get components through AliExpress, but you do have to wait a long time often. I have had good experiences with them, but this is a time-restricted project, so the Avnet Centennial thing is obviously all year, but for this quarter, we are focusing on the origins of the company, which was Charles Avnet, 1921, radio parts store on Radio Row in Manhattan. So I wanted to do this ham radio thing sort of in the near future. So like waiting 50 days or just not knowing when something is going to show up wasn't exactly optimal. But you can see what suppliers and stuff I've used in here. Okay, the other things, SMD LEDs, green, 1206. 1206 is my favorite format for surface mount components because I'm rarely making anything that small. And 1206 is like pretty easy to solder by hand. And also it's still pretty small. I've used actually these same format of ones, also from SparkFun. The same product, but in blue, is on this little PCB. It works really nicely. This time I'm using resistors. And yeah, they come in little strips of 25. Very nice. Dip sockets. Pretty basic component. Nice to know that it's on there. Makes it really easy to swap out at tiny chips for when I'm like programming and prototyping and like swapping it between the programmer and the prototype itself. I use a little chip grabber device, which allows me to pull the chip up out of the socket. But honestly, I've found the best results just with a tiny little pair of pliers like this, pulling the chip out of the socket. It has a nice grip on it. And I've found that the like chip mover device, which is somewhere in the lab, tends to, like, you need to get a little claw underneath the chip inside of the socket, which doesn't always work super great. So this one I can just grab onto the package, and they're cheap enough that, and I'm not like a brute. So even though I do have amazing biceps, I'm not going to destroy a package by like using pliers on it. It's just not going to happen. Plus, unless I'm prototyping, I'm not going to be yoinking these things out of their sockets as much anyway, and they're really cheap, so they'll be really replaceable. So I just recommend a little. This is a Leatherman squirt for moving chips around. And then let's see, we've got, oh yes! So this is the final thing that I've got that's a little bit experimental. It's a triple output RGB LED surface mount. So this is not This is not a NeoPixel. It's very tiny. It's not a NeoPixel. What it is... Oh, is that even in here? Oh, yes, it is. Oh, it's so small. I almost didn't see it. Oh, I got 10 of these things, and it's... yeah, and they're really tiny. This is not a NeoPixel. It has 4 contacts. They're actual red, green, and blue contacts. So you don't need to program this. You can just give it voltage. And they say that they are common anode, so the common ground pin. So one pin is going to be ground, and then the other 3 are going to be red, green, and blue, respectively. That does mean that contrasted to a NeoPixel, you're going to need to use resistors, different resistors, based on which colors, just to make sure that, like, for example, everything doesn't go through red because it's the lowest resistance, lowest forward voltage color. And yeah, they should be fun to play with. I don't have a particular project in mind for these, but look how tiny! Actually, I have 10 of these. There's a fairly popular project format, which is creating LED fingernails of various types. You can do it with NFC stickers that you can get for that very purpose. Also, our friend Kitty Young has done a version. I think Sophie Wong has also done a version. Could be wrong. Tanya Fish has experimented with LEDs on fingernails, I'm pretty sure. And yeah, you could very easily do not even need a microcontroller for these little RGB LEDs. Could be fun. I also have a knack for bending all the LEDs when you pull IC. Oh, I see. It's a joke. Yes. I find that this is more reliable than the socket, the chip puller. Like, it really enables me to pull straight up out of the socket, which I think is one of the reasons that the legs bend, is because I'm trying to get this like chip puller under one side of the socket at a time, and there's one side that's really easy if it's got the notch in it to indicate pin 1, but the other side doesn't have a notch, and so you have to kind of dig it in under the side, and then I think that's how I end up getting the chip pulled out all wonky, and it bends the legs in absurd directions and like weakens the chip. But instead, if I'm able to just grasp this, grasp the package like this, I have an example here. So this is a super old one that I used to use to program, to control NeoPixels on my bicycle. And I had a little USB thing that was attached to here. And let me see if I can even get this out. Also, I'm doing this left-handed because of framing, but you just grab it like this. Yeah, and it comes out. Very nice. As opposed to with a chips puller where you're trying to like lever it underneath. But look at that. That's so nice. And then you just keep a hold of it and like put it in. Ta-da! Yeah. So, wow, this is so old. Yeah, this is an At-Tiny 85 20PU. I've been learning all about the different types of AT-Tiny chips. Lots more to come on that front. If you're interested, check out my tutorial for the Avnet Morse code trainer, because I have this whole section on choosing a chip that explains. I like grabbed the data sheet and screenshotted these particular parts where it talks about which version of At-Tiny 85 is the best for your application, depending on various different parameters. And I found it very helpful. It's very hard to find this information, I've found. And also, yeah, tons of good stuff. Interesting things about my At-Tiny 85 Programmer Shield, which is based on a tutorial by Arjun. So it uses his circuit. This is something I've been using for years, and I finally just solidified it into a programming shield. So I will share the OshPark file for this, and I'm going to redesign it soon. But yeah, and you can follow me on Hackster.io, of course, to see about all kinds of future projects and keep up with this Avnet one as well. Because this one is not yet done. It's going to be having more updates as I get the actual PCBs in, as I get the At-Tiny chips in, I get to test the different versions and stuff. Very exciting. All right, so thank you for joining me on this Friday night, or whatever it is for you. Have a great weekend. We'll see you soon. And as always, hack on.